very important distinction between a certificate and a certification. A lot of things are called certifications, but they truly are not a certification. In our industry, in the building automation industry, we have a number of things which are called certifications. They're not certifications. They're really certificates of training. So the easiest way to tell the difference, if somebody's saying they have a certification and it's aligned to a specific product, it's not a certification, it's a certificate of training. A certificate of training can be very high value. There are certificates of training in our industry which are very high value, which I hold and any industry professional holds, but they're not certifications. Certifications are truly an entire industry's needs. So it's an industry speaking about what are the common skills and abilities needed in a technician, for instance, in our case, establishing a certification. And in our certification, we engaged thousands of professionals in our industry, from dozens of corporations that represent our industry, to establish the nation's first true certification, which, by the way, follows international guidelines called ISO 17024, the International Organization of Standards, Standard 17024. That's a very prescriptive and expensive process to follow. It took us years to do, to establish a certification, which is another reason why there haven't been any certifications in our industry to this date. But what we're talking about now, the difference between a certification and a certificate. Certification, an entire industry speaking about general needs that everybody has to have, general skills that everybody has to have in our industry, versus a certificate of training that is geared towards or specific to a particular product or a particular interest. That is a certificate of training, not a certification. It's a good question. So there are what's called certificates and there are what's called certifications. Actually, there are no certifications in our industry right now. There are a number of high-value certificates of training which amount to a proprietary or maybe one company's approach to training and then certifying. That's very different from a certification. A certification is an industry speaking as to what the important skills, knowledge, skills, and abilities are for a technician. And what we're doing is the industry's, the building automation industry's first true certification. Yeah, there are two really good reasons to seek certification. Number one, from a technician or an employer's perspective, they can demonstrate through a third-party certifying body, which is ACP, the Association of Controls Professionals, that they have demonstrated and have the skills necessary to be successful as a technician in the field. And that also then demonstrates the second reason, from an employer's perspective. Now they know exactly where that individual is, at least what the benchmark is. They could be well above that, but at least there's a benchmark that they can hire to and expect certain skills and abilities in that individual when they do offer them a job. Two groups of individuals could sit for the certification exam. Number one, if you've been to an ACP accredited institution, like a community or technical college, and finished the program, which is usually between 1 and 2 years in length, you're qualified to sit for the certification. If you've been in industry and you've been in the field, building automation industry field, for at least 3 years with experience, you can sit for the certification. There's no combination of the two. You either have to meet the bar in one instance or the other. 2 years of community or technical college education, or completing a program in a more condensed fashion, or 3 years of experience in the field. Yeah, so there are a few steps to preparing for sitting for the certification. Number one is to go to the acp21.org website. Again, that's acp21.org. And there's a list of things that a technician would want to do to prepare for the exam. That being number one, go to the website and look at the list. Number two is to take the pre-assessment exam, which will identify areas of need or weakness in the 8 subject matter areas that are being tested on the exam. And then number three is to seek out the training necessary. There are a couple ways you could do that to get the skills you might be a little bit weak on. Number one, go to a community or technical college which is accredited by ACP to get that education. Or number two, seek it out on your own from resources that we might provide or direct you to get that gap addressed before you sit for the certification. When we talk about assessment level, what we're talking about is what is the level of the certification? What level of individual are we actually looking at? So number one, it's either a graduate of an accredited program, typically a two-year program in building automation, or it's someone who's been in the field for 3 years with experience, either of those two routes. So it's not at a high professional level, like somebody who's been in the field maybe 10 or 20 years. We're looking at more of an associate level, somebody with some experience or with having completed an entire program specific to building automation. So that's the level of assessment that we're looking at. In the future, we may look at a professional or specific targeted areas of the building automation systems profession to certify, but for right now, we're at that associate's level of certification. Okay, well, let's talk about the certification exam itself first. Number one, being a high-value test or exam certification, we've chosen to go with the gold standard, so to speak, with certifications, and it has to be proctored. So you have to go to a proctoring site, and we have a number of proctoring sites around the United States where an individual will be overseeing the actual certification exam while you take it. You should allot for 4 hours for sitting for the certification alone. Obviously, you need to get there a little bit beforehand and make sure you're set and ready to take the exam. And that leads us into the locations. Where are those locations? Well, if you go to our website, acp21.org, you can look and see where you can sit for and schedule your certification exam. As far as maintaining your certification once you've completed it, there are requirements for continuing education units, and there's a time frame for which you have to demonstrate that to ACP to maintain the certification. And there's a small fee that goes along with that every few years as well to maintaining that certification. There's no retesting necessary as long as you maintain your continuing education credit units. There's a lot more to the logistics, but I'll point everybody to acp21.org for more details on the certification.